Welcome to the Influent podcast, developing leadership, building success, and influencing society. For more resources, visit us online at influent.life.
Hi, Bob Frazier. Welcome to InfluentLIVE. And we're here with super special guest today, and his name is Cody Purcell with House Guys USA. He's the owner, and he is reforming and transforming the inner city through real estate. Has an absolutely amazing story. And 153 homes that you're responsible for.
Yeah, that's right.
In the hood.
That's right. We make the hood look like it should. Bob. That's what we do.
Awesome. So started out in ministry.
Yeah.
And using the business to fund the ministry.
That's right.
You know?
That's
and
right.
So walk us through a little bit of your story.
Okay, so yeah, you're exactly right. So I started off very ministry focused, went to a Christian college, and I planned on being a youth pastor or a pastor and trying to figure out how can I do full-time ministry, right?
Sure.
That was the golden ticket for
Sure, because that's the only thing God cares about.
Yeah,
right?
Full-time ministry. You got to get in those four walls and
we're of course joking.
Yeah.
Read my book, Marketplace Christianity, and we make the point that no, everything we touch and everything we do is the ministry.
That's right. So I honestly was kind of forced into business. I had no business background. My wife and I went to Dallas for church ministry training to become church planners, and I, at the time, was an educator, and I got forced into construction, and because all the doors were closed. The Lord just opened only one door for me, and it was construction. And so I started doing remodeling and learning the whole side of business. The whole time I'm praying, God, give me a business that's flexible for ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can look back at my journals. Every day I was like, God, give me a job that's
passive
flexible. Passive income so I can do ministry. Right? I had this dichotomy rather than it being all together. And thankfully, the Lord had blessed, had just prodded me and pushed me in the right direction, because here I am now, and I have real estate and passive income, but and the ministry is all together.
And so you started. You early on had a real heart for poverty and those kind of things.
Right.
So but then funny thing, you started in the inner city because it was cheap to get started.
That's right.
You could buy houses for not much money.
So growing up really poor, I've always had a real affection for the downtrodden, just the homeless. In fact, even in college, I would invite homeless people in my dorm, which you're not supposed to do that, but I would. And but I did ministry in Juarez orphanage. We help out in an orphanage there. Even before getting into real estate, my wife and I would go to Juarez, Mexico, and help. So we always had this heart for poverty. And this whole time, the inner city, the ghetto, was kind of far removed from me. I didn't really think that I had poverty in my own backyard, right? And so I started searching for passive income, started reading books on real estate. How can I get passive income for ministry? And so I ended up being able to get into the inner city market because it was affordable, and started getting rentals and connecting with investors, and it just progressed. And all along, not realizing that the Lord was calling me to a ministry that was business, that was all of it together.
And so you're doing things really different than other landlords are doing in the inner city. And primarily, tell us.
Well, so I do feel like we're doing things differently. I feel like, one, when you partner with heaven, things change. And so I feel like the Lord's really given us strategy and wisdom on how to handle, the housing component in the inner city, but also the families, right? So a typical property management business, right, is just run like a business. Mm-hmm. You got to get your rent, you got to do the maintenance. We are extremely family oriented. We are a community organization where we are very hands-on with our families. We take really good care of our tenants. We are very responsive with maintenance, and we meet with our tenants. If rather than just going and filing the eviction, right, we set up meetings and we pull in resources from the community. To
really help disciple them, figure out what the issue is,
That's
and
right.
see if there's some resources to help them.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah. So we've so my wife and I 2 years ago, I convinced my wife to move to the inner city. That was a fun, interesting conversation. So we were living in Lee Summit, Greenwood actually, south of Lee Summit. And I said, honey, I think we need to move to the inner city, the ghetto.
She was,
And,
all right, sure thing.
And true story, the first week we moved into the inner city, I didn't share this with you. The first week we moved in the inner city, we had a murder down the street. And we had across the street, we had somebody that was held hostage, actually.
Oh, my gosh.
In a house.
So did that create a lively conversation at home?
My wife looked at me like, oh, so we're living in the inner city. But she wouldn't have it any other way now. The inner city is our city. It's our place.
It's your home.
We moved to the inner city so we can be a part of the community. We wanted to experience it. We've immersed ourselves with our families, with our people, with our community. That's where we eat, where we sleep, where we play, where we go to church.
Wow. Is this pretty well received? What do they think about this? Crazy.
You know what? I think
white guy coming in.
I've gained a lot of credibility because I live in the inner city. In fact, I tell my tenants sometimes, I say, I live in the hood, and I live deeper in the hood than you do.
So generally people are pretty open if you're trying to help them. And
I feel like it's also, I just know that it's God's favor and God's calling in my life. And so when you have that and you actually care for people, and when people come into my office and I'm talking to them about housing, they don't see it just as a business, see that I really.
So Cody, where do you think this is going? I mean, where? So you've kind of have a platform right now, but it seems like it feels to me like it's just more of a platform than a finished structure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where do you think it goes? Do you have any idea, or are you kind of clueless at this point?
Well, I'm long for the ride with the Lord, but
sure.
I do feel like God's given me vision of what it looks like. And we're trying to, I'm a big dreamer, and I feel like the Lord's told me, Cody,
so
go
tell me,
dream.
What do you think?
I would love to see initiatives in other inner cities, similar initiatives. Maybe not necessarily house guys. I would be willing to consider those things, but I want people to own the inner cities. Our American economy, the worst part of our American economy is our ghettos, our inner city.
Yeah.
And we need reformers, we need Christian investors who see a heart for the inner city to come in. And you know what the Lord's told me? He's like, Cody, develop a model in the inner city that makes investors money and changes the city.
Right. Well, and that can sound weird, but money is important because money means scalability.
Yeah.
Right? If it's not producing income, then it's not sustainable.
That's right.
And it's not expandable. If it is producing income,
that's right,
then you can hire people, you can grow,
that's it,
and that kind of thing. So profit is permission to grow.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kingdom, by the way.
It's kingdom. Yeah. So you want to create models and see this go more and more.
Yeah. If we can develop systems and a team, and we can establish profitability while making the hood look good, then it's a beautiful kingdom model that can scale.
Now, you also talked about buyback KC, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, what the heck? What are you talking
about?
Well,
I got to give credit where credit's due. That was Jim's. He coined that phrase. But if you look at just
Jim Mafuccio, my partner, who's been on the show a few times, and
that's his thing.
We love him.
Jim
He's kind of been a mentor to you.
Oh yeah, he's been a huge mentor of mine. Yeah, it's been an incredible mentor. But Jim had this idea, and I've had a similar vision for. Not only do we want to provide housing as far as rentals, right, for families, but the end game really is also developing a program where you're empowering people to own land, to own property. That's what will restore dignity, and that will really bring a lot of change.
Because at the end of the day, a renter is paying money for someone else to own a property.
Yeah.
And if that property goes up in value, they're not participating.
That's right.
So you want to help the hood buy the hood, and own it, and they're now they're stakeholders.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. And I think we can do that through. We have to. There's a lot of work there. There's a lot of challenges with helping inner city families own houses. There's just challenges.
Well, not everybody can be an owner. You have to figure out how to do the maintenance, and you even shared a story last night when we were chatting about how you gave a home. To a homeless guy.
Right.
Deeded the whole thing over to him, a good home, right?
I did.
And what, a year later, You see him
he was-
panhandling
Yeah.
on the street.
Right, exactly.
And,
so we have to develop systems. We have to, and the beauty about the inner city is because the housing market is so affordable, there's a lot of margins that if we can really steward it well and we can develop programs and strategies where investors can say, hey, wait a second. So you're telling me that I can make a good return on my money,
Yeah.
and I can change one of the worst parts of our American economy.
Right.
Sign me up.
Exactly. This is as a housing guy, and my business is in the real estate world and real estate finance world, and I mean, I believe you're going to see a pretty good explosion in values in the lower end of the real estate market. There's simply not enough housing at the low end.
That's right.
And to replace these houses, you're talking even the small little houses, it's a couple $100,000
that's right.
in replacement cost
Yeah.
for these things. And so the bottom line is these properties are going up in value, and someone's gonna rape. And why not? And the problem with gentrification, right? There's a lot of pushback from the inner cities against gentrification, where
That's right.
outsiders come in, fix up the inner city, and they get high fives from all the city leaders. But the people who live there are actually pushed out.
That's right.
And they don't participate in the gains, and their housing actually becomes unaffordable.
That's right. And that's why it's really important for people like us to come in and restore what's already there, and because it safeguards low-income families. We want to protect families and their housing.
What do you mean it's for us to restore?
Well, if we don't restore, then what could potentially end up happening is companies come in and they tear down and they rebuild.
Yeah.
And so if they rebuild, then just by the nature of it, it's going to be more expensive.
Got it.
And so we have to restore what's
rehab
there.
in place. But even rehabbing in place, you can still price people out.
Yeah.
So we want to create ownership. So we're looking at different programs like seller financing and other things to be able to give marginal buyers ability to actually own the home successfully.
That's exactly right.
So you've been reading some super interesting books.
Yeah, I really have.
So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah. Okay. So I got into the inner city not really understanding the history of what took place. The more and more I've got into it, and I'm seeing the poverty firsthand, I'm seeing these cycles firsthand, I'm starting to ask the question, why, really, why do they?
Where
why
does
do
this
guys,
come from?
Yeah.
I mean, why is there?
Why do we
in
have-
America, here it is, right here. This
That's right. In all major
huge,
cities.
prosperous nation, and with laws protecting the
Exactly.
races and
Exactly.
giving equal opportunity. I mean, huge.
Why do we have
inscribed.
ghettos?
What is the problem?
And in
Why is this?
And Bob, in every major city we have
Right.
ghettos.
Right.
And so what happened, right?
Right.
And my eyes have been really opened up, and this has also really kind of brought all the pieces together for what the Lord's called me to specifically as a reformer. And it's to it's this abolitionist heart that I have to really see the aftermath or the effects of racism and segregation, to reverse those effects. In all the research that I've done and all the books that I'm reading, I'm seeing a overarching theme that the reason why ghettos exist is because of racism. I mean, just simply put, it's because.
Explain that, though.
Okay, let's back it up. So you look at all the American policies for real estate development and ownership. While the laws allowed the African American culture technically to own real estate, it made it nearly impossible, until early 1970s, it made it nearly impossible for an African American family to own a property.
Like there was laws in place.
There wasn't necessarily
prior
laws
to the
in
70s?
place. It's just there's things like redlining. There's this all different ways that they prevented people.
Well, and it was. I mean, prior. I don't know when, but prior, right in the South, I do know because voting was tied to property ownership, right?
That's right.
So there was a lot of resistance to allowing blacks to own property, so that they could control the vote.
That's right.
And those laws are gone.
Yeah.
But still, a lot
That's
of
right.
residual things
Well-
were in place even up through the 70s. You're saying.
Exactly. And so we had a lot of uneven development. We had a lot of segregation. A lot of ways where they missed out on the real estate wealth that a lot of whites.
And most wealth has been created through real estate. I
exactly
mean, if
right.
you look at The millionaires, most millionaires in the nation are real estate millionaires.
And so now I'm here in the inner city, and I'm rubbing elbows with my people, and they're my people. It's my, I feel like I'm the unofficial mayor of my hood, And I'm looking at my people, and I'm saying they missed out on this real estate.
Right.
And now it's time to restore that. It's time to restore dignity. It's time to revert. As Christians, as reformers, as businessmen, investors, it's not the government's responsibility. It's we the people. It's our responsibility to look at the, I was the same way. I looked at the inner city and I was like, oh, it's just these people, they're just not thinking right. They need to get out. They have the same opportunity
I have.
It's their fault. And while that's true, right, like we were talking before, it is what's between the years. But because of the aftermath, there's this cycle of poverty. And they are trying to get out of the cycle of poverty, but
they don't even know how. They don't have the tools. They don't have the encouragement, the hope, the parenting, even the very, very basics that most of us take for granted.
And unfortunately, the government's solution is welfare and
it doesn't really help. It doesn't really help. It's good-hearted. I honestly think most politicians are trying. I think they're trying, but it doesn't really. It's not effective.
We need Christians who love real estate and want to get a return, are willing to take a little bit of a risk and invest in the inner city and own rentals, carry notes, just come in and partner with the inner city in different levels so we can reverse the effects, the aftermath of what took place in our American history, really.
Yeah, I know. There was one church in Kansas City, the Rock Church, and a while back they were going and buying properties in neighborhoods, renovating them, and then getting to know the residents there and inviting them to church, praying with their families, this kind of thing, and really reforming entire neighborhoods at a time.
Yeah.
And and honestly, it's just a long line of reformers, right? I mean, I wrote this book a couple years ago called Kingdom Horizon, and it's about hope for the planet, and I actually trace history. I go through history, and I show how since the time of Jesus for 2,000 years, what's changed in the planet, and I'm using data.
Yeah.
And what you find if you look at my charts is around 500 years ago there was a time called the Age of Enlightenment, led by almost entirely Christians who basically went in and changed all of society. Yeah. I mean, abolished slavery, invented calculus and changed penology, criminology, changed schooling, brought schooling to the masses and all believers. And what happened is everything went exponential from that point.
Yeah.
And so, it's interesting because we're having some conversations and, and a lot of people just don't have hope for the future. But I always believe that our prayers matter, our prayers are effective, and reformers are effective. That one guy who goes and buys 153 houses and goes and starts getting in people's lives and making a difference, well, what happens if 10 people do what you do? What happens if 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 people do that? I'm sorry, the planet changes. And the heart of God comes into the situation. The ways of God come into the situation, and that is the kingdom of God expanding.
Come on.
So it matters, and you don't have to. We don't have to go overseas. We don't have to cross an ocean or get on a plane, right? It's right here.
I'm a missionary. I'm a missionary in my.
You have as much
city.
ministry as you can tolerate right now. I'm sure,
funny,
right?
I feel like I'm a pastor, right? My whole point was to be a minister. Well, I have 153 families that I'm ministering to on a daily basis.
A congregation of 153 families. There you
do.
go, man. I love it. I love it. And it's just so you pray with these people.
Yeah. We've had people come to our office. We've prayed for healing.
Come on, man.
Seen people healed. We just sometimes just the smallest word of encouragement can go a long way. And sometimes tenants just need to hear that somebody believes in them.
Like you were telling about a guy who just lost a job.
And I just said, hey man, you're gonna get it.
It's gonna work.
You're gonna work this out. And he's never.
And he all of a sudden he just gets.
He did. He got it figured out.
Gets a hop in his step.
Yeah, they need some people. They need believers. They need reformers to believe in them and to encourage them and to see that. And they need people to come by their side and when they have a baby, come check on them, and
Yeah.
like they need a community.
Somebody who cares. And do you invite people to church too, and that kind of thing?
Yeah,
And do you have a,
we're attending a local church in the inner city, Sheffield Family Life Center.
Awesome.
Love that church, by the way. And
Go Sheffield.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
so it's really close to our house, so it works out really well.
And invite people there. And
Yeah, that's a great
yeah,
opportunity for
it
that.
it is so perfect. And these people, they're not anti-God, right? I mean,
No.
they're so full of need.
Yeah.
If someone will meet their need,
Yeah.
they get touched. They'll respond to heaven,
And
right?
we have a lot of families that are hard-working families that love their city, and they don't want to leave the inner city. People were thinking, why don't they just
Wow.
get out of there? No,
They have a heart for their
it's
neighbors
it's
and
their city,
their spot.
and they just need an opportunity to have somebody that cares about housing, that cares about seeing the economy change, coming in and do real estate development.
Wow.
Then that's what will change the inner city.
Wow. So one of the books you're reading, tell about this latest one and about
Yeah.
Kansas City. So
Yeah.
it's about Kansas City,
Yeah,
right?
so I'm reading this book right now called Race, Segregation, and Uneven Development, and it's the history of Kansas City.
Wow.
And it goes through the whole history of how the ghetto took
Developed.
place. Yeah, and just through redlining, and people were just blinded by racism.
Wow.
Even the most well-intended people were just blinded by it, and segregation happened, and it
Well,
pushed
I mean,
low-income
racism
families
was
down.
real. I mean,
No, it really was.
it feels like, I think a lot of black people, a lot of people would say racism is super alive and well right now. It doesn't feel like that to me, but certainly not too long ago, it certainly was. I mean, you go
Yeah.
back to the 50s or the 60s, I mean, there's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, even World War II, clearly. I mean, and so a lot of the laws are now encoded to
No, it's true.
make the opportunity. But as you said, we're really dealing with the aftermath of just
Yeah.
the incredible nuclear devastation
Yeah.
left behind by these policies.
And now we have what I would consider modern-day redlining, which is evictions, felonies, and just
credit reports.
Yeah, we have a mess. We really do.
Yeah.
But we can't just be like, hey, man, it's just out of sight, out of mind. As reformers, we have to tackle the hardest. In order to change our American economy, in order to change America, we have to tackle the
Yeah.
worst areas. And that's
Abraham Lincoln did an amazing thing in America by the Emancipation Proclamation,
That's
right?
right.
And I think Martin Luther King is a hero, and
he's my boy.
and yeah, come on,
He's my
man.
hero, yeah.
And the whole civil rights movement in the 60s, which got all the laws changed and changed the whole mentality in America.
One man, he just
One man.
went after it.
One man. I mean, it is amazing the power of one in with the right message at the right time, right? But now we're dealing with the cleanup phase.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's a big cleanup phase. It's not. I don't want to minimize it.
It is a big.
But it's
cleanup
time to really get behind these families and help
true.
fix fathering and the fathering crisis, fix the welfare crisis, fix the.
phase. And housing is the hub of all that, if you think about it.
Explain it.
Housing is the hub. I mean, that's where the families live. That's housing is not just a place to sleep. It's right. It's a symbol. It's a physical symbol of family.
Wow.
It's a symbol of worth.
Wow.
It's a symbol of affluence. If
Yeah.
somebody has a nice house, it's a symbolism of that. So.
Well, even who was it last night? Kimberly Miller, our friend, sharing about
Yeah.
some of these families. They can't afford a house. They're literally with children. They're living in abandoned houses because they just can't
I mean,
afford it.
how do you have dignity when you go home and you're living in a house
And it's a
that-
piece of trash.
Yeah,
Oh.
you just don't have.
Unsafe, yeah.
By real estate development, you're actually restoring dignity to a land. You're restoring dignity to people.
Yeah.
And you're providing that housing, and you're getting all the riffraff cleaned up by getting rid of the vacancies. You're cleaning up a city, and so housing really is the hub. I mean, all these community organizations that we're pulling from that provide help for families, it's all centered around housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, so here you go starting in the ministry, wanting to help the poor and doing the
Yeah.
real estate to make money to do this other thing.
Yeah.
And now you're actually doing it, but your ministry is now 24/7.
That's right, Bob.
And you're actually making money doing it. You're
right.
actually running a profitable business.
That's right, and it's a kingdom thing. And you know what? Let me speak to reformers.
Come on!
Because what we want to do as ministers, as reformers, is we want to go plant a church. Okay. And now, don't get me wrong. I was a church planter. There's value in church planting.
Yeah.
But sometimes going and planting a church isn't what is needed.
Right.
You got to find the need, there's a reality outside of the church walls.
Yeah.
That sometimes we think, well, if we just start a church and we can do church and then we'll change a region. That's not necessarily true. We have to
Right.
find the need, right? And thankfully the Lord kind of just directed me in this, but I see the need of poverty. And
Yeah.
what's the hinge pin of poverty? Well, I discovered that it's real estate. It's
Wow.
families. It's this
Wow.
housing issue. And so I want to
I
encourage.
mean,
everybody-
Jesus cared about the poor.
That's
He
right.
said they'll always be with you, but he also said give to the poor.
Yeah.
I mean, he really cared about the poor all the time, encouraging people to be generous to the poor. And
That's right.
you know, so
And
he cares.
If there are any reformers out there, they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? How do I find my calling? I say, there is so much need in the world. Just pick one
Pick a
and
need.
try it, and then
Yeah.
see what the Lord unfolds. And as you are finding the needs in the world, don't just sit in the church. Find the needs in the world and let the Lord
Go do 'em.
unfold a
Yeah.
calling and an assignment on your life.
Right. You know, let your light shine before men.
Come on.
Right. See, I believe it's what you're doing. You're letting your light shine before 153 families and more. You know, and wow, right?
Yeah.
You're not hiding it under a bushel,
That's right.
you know, and you're not trying to do it once a week on a Sunday, you know, and God bless the people that are doing that. But honestly, and he says the kingdom of God is like a lump of leaven, a woman stuck in a measure of dough, and the whole thing was leavened.
Come on.
I believe if we had, you know, you and 10 more of you and 100 more and 1,000 more of you, we would see transformation in the inner city. And honestly, if the root cause has been changed and eradicated, at least mostly, which I believe it has. I believe racism is really on the way out, and the laws are certainly changed.
That's right.
Well, then now it's fixable.
Let's clean it up.
Now it's let's just go fix it.
That's it.
You know, so now it's just bootstrapping. It's just getting one person at a time changed and on board, and they're wide open, right? Everybody's willing to be helped out of poverty, aren't they?
That's right.
And we do it in the name of Jesus. Woo!
let me say one more thing to reformers. I just want to encourage
Do it.
reformers. So, I, by the way, had zero background in real estate, zero background in business.
You're an English teacher.
Grew up poor. How does a poor guy?
Poor English teacher.
How does a poor guy have 153 houses and
Yeah.
is now starting a movement in Kansas City and the inner city? Well, it was because I was a willing vessel, Bob.
Yeah.
I was a willing vessel. I was crazy enough to risk and just have
Yeah.
some faith and let the Lord unfold what was already in my heart. You know, God
Yeah.
instilled this desire for poverty, and even the abolitionists, this thing against racism. I grew up having this.
Yeah.
You know, my hero was Martin Luther King Jr. as
Yeah,
a kid,
awesome.
which is so. If you just have faith and you see a need and you step out in faith and you're a willing vessel, the Lord really will unfold it. And you just got to stay along with the ride and be faithful, and He really will. I mean, there's no reason why. As far as if you just looking at it and say, how does a guy like that do that? Well, I was just along
Yeah.
for the ride. Bob.
You know,
It's just-
I'm a firm believer in, take that step. I say God can't steer a parked car. Just get rolling.
Yeah.
And then get moving. And
That's exactly right.
it's like one of my favorite quotes is George S. Patton, who says a good plan violently executed today is better than a perfect plan next week.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like just go start. We'll never have the right plan out of the gate, but we always will change it, man. Good word, buddy. Good word for the reformers. So you reformers out there, it's time to get engaged, follow your passion, and turn your ministry into your business, and your business into your ministry. There's no difference. Go do it. All right, Cody Purcell and House Guys says.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Rock it out. All right, we'll see you next week. God bless.